everyone. That's the Giza Plateau, or you can see the pyramids over there. And that is the Grand Egyptian Museum, or we call it the GEM. And after 20 years of waiting, the Egyptian government, finally, they opened 12 main galleries. This is not the final opening at the GEM. The final opening will happen after moving the rest of King Tutankhamun's treasures and open up the Solar Boat Museum. Well, my name is Muhammad Ali, and I'm going to take you on a short tour at the Grand Egyptian Museum. So the first thing, we have to go through the security check and then buy the tickets and move on to go inside the museum. So once we go through the tickets check, as you can see, we have some golf cars to make it easier for you to get there to the entrance. That's pretty nice if you don't want to walk all the way there to the entrance. So the first thing you're going to see is the hanging obelisk. This obelisk weighed 110 tons. The Egyptian government brought from a city called San al-Hagar, which is north of Cairo at the Delta. The obelisk has the names and titles of King Ramses II written and carved all over the obelisk. Including the base of the obelisk, we have a cartouche of King Ramses II. The Egyptian government decided to make a pedestal that weighed 300 tons, and they decided to raise the obelisk on top. That's why we call it the hanging obelisk. At the pedestal, we have the names of Egypt written in all the different languages in the world. The obelisks are considered to be one of the wonders of the ancient wonders of the world. And I made a documentary film about the obelisk. You're going to be able to watch it on my YouTube channel very soon. Then we're going to be able to see the entrance of the museum. As you can see, the entrance has a pyramidal shape with a little pyramidion on the top, covered with a little layer of gold or electrum, which is a mixture of silver and gold. And it has so many different names of Egyptian kings and queens written in a random order in cartouches, not in a chronological order. So let's go through the entrance to see what's inside the museum. This is a very interesting thing. They would like to show you the map of the museum and why did they choose the logo of the museum as if it's a piece of jewel. So the first thing you're going to see once you enter the museum on the right-hand side is a big colossal statue of King Ramses II, the beloved of Betah. The statue was carved from one big, large, gigantic block of rose granite stone brought from Aswan Quarry with a height of 12 meters, and it weighs 83 tons. The statue itself was meant to be placed at the entrance of the worship god Betah's temple at Memphis. The statue itself has been worshipped for so many years, where ancient Egyptians, they used to provide offerings, do the prayers to the statue right at the entrance of that temple. The statue is showing the king standing in a very powerful position, and behind him we have two carvings to one of his sons and one of his daughters. This statue, in fact, in 1955, the Egyptian president Nasser, he ordered to move the statue from Memphis, and it was placed right in the middle of one of Cairo main squares called Ramses Square. The statue was facing a lot of troubles because of the pollution and the vibration caused by Cairo main subway. And because of that, the Egyptian government in 2002, they took a decision to move the statue into a new location, and they chose the location where they are going to build the Grand Egyptian Museum. In 2006, they did an experiment on a big block made of granite, same size of the statue. They did an experiment. The experiment was successful, and the statue was moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum location until in 2018, they moved the statue one more time to the inside part of the museum, as if he's welcoming the guests once they enter the museum. And on our way to the main galleries, we have to go through the grand staircase with 146 steps. And in order to go up there, you have two choices. Either you can use the escalator that will take you all the way up to the top, or you can use the staircase itself and go through the masterpieces that you can see them on both sides of the staircase. And the grand staircase has been divided into 4 main sections. The first section is royalty, where you can find yourself surrounded by statues for kings and queens who ruled Egypt in ancient Egypt Golden Age, the dynastic era. As if the Egyptian kings are welcoming their guests to the museum, like the statues of King Senusert III, like the statue of ancient Egypt greatest warrior king, Thutmose III, who ruled Egypt at the 18th dynasty, the statue of Amenhotep III, also ancient Egypt's most powerful queen, Queen Hatshepsut. And her stepson, Egypt's greatest warrior king, Thutmose III, and the great king Ramses III. And here is the statue of Egypt's most heretic pharaoh, Akhenaten. And the second section of the staircase was for the divine houses. As ancient Egyptian temples has been dedicated to so many different gods and goddesses, and those gods were either local or from the entire kingdom. This is of course beside the funeral temples, the one that was dedicated for the kings after their death. The ancient Egyptian temple was like a home for those gods, and according to the ancient Egyptian beliefs, the souls of these worship gods are in their statues. And this is why they used to do some kind of a daily rituals. Ancient Egyptian priests, they had to do these rituals on daily basis. And these rituals were like waking the statue up, dress them in new clothes, presenting food, and worshiping. And after they do all these, when they are done with all these rituals, they put the statue back into the main shrine, which is kept in the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place at the temple, and they lock it for the next day so they can redo the same rituals one more time. But as for the funeral temples, the one that was dedicated to the kings after their death, the main purpose of these funeral temples were to guarantee that the king is going to be able to receive all the offerings after their death, and that guarantees that the king will receive eternal offerings at the other world. And the responsibility for construction of these temples belongs to the king himself. And the third section of the staircase was for gods and kings. Gods were responsible for different aspects of life, including the sky, the river Nile, the desert, and the underworld. King was in charge of the land of Egypt and representing the gods on earth. Kings were the only people allowed to order new god statues, and those statues for the gods were created for new temples. And finally, the fourth section is for Journey to Eternity. Royal death and burial was just the beginning. In the Old Kingdom, the king's soul traveled to heaven to become a star. And by the New Kingdom, he also transformed into Osiris, the king of the underworld. To keep their dead bodies safe, kings were buried under pyramids in the Old and Middle Kingdoms, hidden in the Valley of the Kings in the New Kingdom, and buried inside temples enclosures during the Third Intermediate and Late Period. So the first thing you're gonna see once you finish the grand staircase is a wonderful panoramic view of the Giza Plateau and the three pyramids. And now it's the time to see the main galleries, as the Egyptian government recently opened up 12 galleries for visitors. So the first thing we're going to see here by the entrance is the main galleries plan. And the main galleries plans has been divided into 3 vertical sections. So, and of course, we have 12 main rooms: society, kingship, and beliefs. So you get 2 choices, either to visit the rooms in a vertical order. If you, for example, if you want to see the society, then kingdom, kingship, or beliefs. The other order, the one which is I recommend, is to go in a chronological order. So you can move from room 1 to 2 to room 3 and keep moving in a chronological order. As you can see, they divided the 4 main sections horizontally. And here it starts from the prehistoric era, pre-dynastic, early dynastic, old kingdom, middle kingdom, new kingdom, and the Greco-Roman period. And now I would like to take you in a short tour to show you some of the highlights at the main galleries. For example, at the first gallery, we can see some of the daily life scenes, which is like real movie made by ancient Egyptians describing their life. Some of their stone tools from the prehistoric and the pre-dynastic era. And here we can see some of their hunting tools and more of the daily life scenes, like making beer, baking bread. There's a very interesting thing inside the museum, which is making a reproduction of one of the ancient Egyptian tombs, like the tomb of Khnum-Hotep II. So they did some really wonderful things, like coloring the scenes, moving some of the objects, just to give you an idea how it used to look like. We can also see some of the treasures of Queen Hatshepsut, the mother of King Khufu. She had a burial site next to her husband, King Senefru. Most probably grave robbers robbed the tomb, so they had to move the rest of the artifacts into another burial site next to her son's burial site. Some of the really carved jars, carved from a very hard materials. And right here we can see a perfect precision of cutting a very hard stone like this. Take a look at the holes at the sides. It's like being carved by a core drill. It's really interesting. While you're viewing the artifacts, you can see the pyramids in the distance over there. This is an amazing piece where we can see Osiris, god of the underworld, on a funerary bed, and his wife Isis is right next to him. This is an example of the 4 canopic jars where ancient Egyptians used to keep the internal organs of the deceased during the mummification process. Here also we can see them sacrificing animals right next to the body of the deceased. Here is another example. A different collection of shields and weapons made of different materials, made of wood, copper, bronze. A collection of different jewelries were discovered in tombs in Saqqara. Some of them are made of gold and some made of precious stones. These are different models of papyrus paper, or ancient Egyptians managed to create a sheet of paper out of a papyrus plant so they can put a lot of details in a very short space, instead of carving on the walls. This is a beautiful statue for a high priest called Ramses Nichit, carved from black granite stone found in Karnak temples. It shows the high priest protected by the baboon, the one that represents God Tuhut, the god of writing, wisdom, magic, and moon. These are some beautiful tool models made of wood, copper, and bronze. And here we can see several musical instruments like lute, herbs, clappers, and this is an interesting piece, which is rectangular tambourine. Some of their toys and games, like the Senate over there. We also got several pieces from the Greco-Roman era. Although we have a whole museum called the Greco-Roman Museum in Alexandria, we could not ignore their presence at the Grand Egyptian Museum. This is a very interesting piece, which is a wig, because ancient Egyptians, both men and women, they used to be wearing wigs because of the lice. There's a beautiful statue for Egypt's most powerful queen, Hatshepsut. Take a look at the development of carving the sarcophagus. Some of them were carved from a very hard stone. These are a few different amulets made of different materials. Some of them are made of gold, lapis, turquoise, silver, and electrum, which is a mixture of silver and gold. This is a coffin made of wood for a lady and got her mummy inside. Here also we can see a mummified crocodile. We have a whole museum for the mummified crocodiles by the Temple of Komombo. And now, my friends, I really hope you enjoyed this short tour of the gym. And this is not the whole thing. We're still waiting until when they move the rest of King Tutankhamun's artifacts, which is going to be shown over there. So we're going to come back here again one more time and have another tour of King Tutankhamun's exhibits. Now, if you really enjoyed this video, I really hope you subscribe to my channel so you can see more. I also have some very interesting documentary films. You can see them on my channels. Thank you very much.